the Mr. Vegas of esports investments. There's a weird absence in your portfolio. There's not like a weird loot crate company or a weird skin drop company. What's your take on that?
I've tried to stay true. I've never been out there suggesting to anyone that I'm something I'm not. I don't pretend to be a gamer if I'm not a gamer. I like people, and I like to get to know people and learn things. I'm curious about new things. So for me, all of these different companies that are doing some really innovative things, it's all new knowledge. And so a lot of it for me, frankly, has been a simple process of saying, yes, I'm a Vegas guy, and yes, I'm a casino guy, and yes, I've been around lots of capital to do lots of big things and small things, but at the end of the day, I'm like you. I want to learn. I want to interact. What I decide to do and how I decide to do it, what I've left out or what I've included is less like a scientific formula. It's less like taking a whiteboard and planning it, but it is the same way that I did the casino industry, which is by intuition and gut, which is if you're open to all the different data points, you somehow develop an instinct as to what direction you should go.
You see patterns.
You see patterns, and it's not like I could write it down and say to someone, here, this is the pattern. And sometimes I have an idea, and then I talk to somebody and they say, well, you're thinking about it wrong. And I'm willing to basically say, you know what, you're right. In other words, I'm open-minded to seeing things from different ways. And hopefully that makes me a good partner when I do get involved with companies. I think it does. In addition to providing capital, I like to provide some strategic, insight. And sometimes all I'm doing is telling people, just be open. Don't be in a box. You may miss what you have to do to stay a step ahead.
So Steven, you said yesterday something that I found really interesting. You took all the calls from people who were looking for investment. For a period of years, you took all the calls. What did you learn?
I did. I actually picked up that lesson when I first started in the casino industry. I was 26 years old, and a gentleman who was my partner for almost 30 years, he was 25 years my senior, almost like a father figure, and he sat me down and he said, we have a few rules in this company. We had a small company at that time. It grew to be a very big company with thousands of employees, but he said, we have a few rules in this company. And he was a gentleman from the Midwest. He was a gentleman with no more than a high school education. I was coming out of Ivy League college and law school. And he said, we have a few rules. Number one, when we walk around and get up in the morning, we say good morning to the people we see and we smile. He noticed me being from a New York City kid, that I would keep my eyes down. I would not make eye contact. He said, we're gonna look people in the eye. This is what we do in the South. This is what we do in the Midwest. I said, okay. And he said the second thing is, we're not so important, no matter how important we are or will be, that we don't have time to have a cup of coffee with someone, listen to their story. We can always dismiss it. We can always say we're not going to do it again, but we can always do it the first time. And so I started with that teaching at the beginning of my business career, and I've kept that practice. Now, what it means in esports, I'm pretty active in social media, more so than people my age. And so people can get to you if they want to. And so I would get people getting to me through all kinds of means. Sometimes they would send me a Twitter message. I thought it was interesting. It was like these shadowy figures. They would say, Mr. Crystal, I understand you're an investor. Will you invest in X or Y? And I'd say, maybe, but what is your name? Let's start with what is your name? And they would give me their nickname. And I'd say, well, okay, that's your nickname, but
face killer.
Yeah, exactly, face killer. Well, that's great, face killer, but what is the name your parents gave you? And the truth is, it was very abrupt and raw discussion, but it was real. And the truth is, I would say 95% did not amount to anything except I got a sense of how people communicate, number one. I got a sense as to the fact there's a lot of competition and bias and prejudice and opinions. And so what I learned is people will accuse you. People accuse you of those things they are guilty of themselves. So if I want to learn where someone's coming from, I listen to what their concerns are, what they attribute to other people. And so in some respects, those discussions are a form of due diligence. I can tell whether this is a person that if I like their idea, I could do business with them. And so of course, most people don't know really where I'm coming from. I'm just absorbing. And so taking every call is part of the process of deciding what to do with your resources. This has been my experience.
What was your first big failure in investment?
I would say I can think of several, so the issue's not...
The really juicy one.
Look, that's a good question. I mean, to some extent, let's talk about gaming technology. The business that I'm in, that provides most of my income, while esports is picking up momentum. You know that the average time in America to bring a piece of technology to a casino floor is 11 years. This used to be the case. 11 years because of the barrier to entry was so high. And so can you imagine spending 11 years doing anything, any one thing? So obviously there were companies that I felt like, let's take for example, electronic table games. Now most of table gaming, when you walk into a casino, is done without a live dealer. It's done with people sitting around a table transacting without there being a physical person to deal cards or to hand out chips. This is a huge innovation. And as much common sense as that is, it took 11 years. And so I invested in 3 different companies, and one of them made it big, like 20 times my investment, and the other 2, I just couldn't get over that hump. They were too early or too late. And so I would say that obviously my track record is certainly better than 50%. Obviously, if it wasn't, it'd be hard to be doing it for 30 years. But it's not 100%. And the thing is, I learned from those mistakes. And so the issue of timing, is this the right time to be doing this, is an issue that I think about more now than I did earlier.
So from personal experience, slight tweak on it. I did up to 200 travel days a year in SteelSeries, going to conventions and selling keyboards at booths and mice and whatever we had now launched, and no one got it, But how else could you look people in the eye, when they look at the thing that you made, and then see how they react to it? And there were big enough cultural differences, even across small countries in Europe, that you need to go see it if you want to know it.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, one of the things I learned with esports, as many calls as I get from the USA, I get more calls from outside of the USA. I get more contact from Europe, every places that you would expect, like UK, of course, and Germany. I had a lot of contacts early on. Scandinavia, Sweden. I know this from the casino industry and from the online gaming industry. In Sweden, they innovate.
They took poker too, right?
They took poker. And why? Because it's a largely homogeneous country with 9 million people that are similarly situated.
And a very technology-forward government.
And they're highly educated. So they can incubate, they can go from idea to design to execution much quicker than most places in the world. And so that's why some of the biggest companies biggest ideas come out of Sweden. So, you know, you look around the world and there's opportunity everywhere. Poland, we're here with Kinguin and with other companies. But one thing I would say is that I also appreciate, like you, having traveled around, that there are cultural differences. And so in the US, the things that we value are transparency. We're very upfront. We tell it like it is. You ask us a question, we give you the answer, we give you the backup. We're optimistic. The glass is half full in the USA. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, but generally we're optimistic. We're flexible. Yeah. We're flexible. I say, let's do it this way. You say, well, let's do it this way. And I say, okay, how about a compromise? Let's do it this way. Obviously, these are things that I think make USA a unique place, and a place that often helps to be a catalyst in growing industries like esports. When I go to other places where I've done business, like Germany, I've done business, and Scandinavia, I've done business, the Nordics, the UK, I still am obviously meeting people who are, you know, earnest and hardworking and have great ideas, but sometimes not as much experience in doing things a different way. More, I'm only used to doing it this way, and this is what I feel comfortable.
I walk this path.
I walked this path before. And so the truth is, that becomes a factor for me, because if someone is not willing to grow like I am, then it's unlikely I'll be a great partner with them, you know? So I almost use that as, I understand there are differences, and I love that there are differences. But you have to, at the end of the day, you're two entrepreneurs or two people pursuing a passion, you have to be able to find some common ground. And this is what I look for when I'm looking at investments outside the USA.
Let's talk about services and platforms. I like platforms, right? Mm-hmm. You want to become platform. Help me.
Look, what I'm interested in, the thesis that I have for esports is, I'm interested in the fan base. Mm-hmm. This is where the energy is. These are where the microtransactions are. This is where the cryptocurrency comes to life. This is where the blockchain has its use with the masses. And so sometimes I could be wrong about which team or which brand is going to go to the top, but I can't really be wrong if I have something that can be consumed by some portion of the masses. And so what I look for are platforms and applications and things that can be monetized to the masses. In fact, one of the observations someone made to me at the event yesterday, someone who came to see the discussion, was they said they studied my strategy in investment, and they said, you're doing something better than other people, which is you find ways to monetize your investment. And I guess I bring that through my evolutionary role in the casino industry.
It's an ingrained part of it, you can say.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it sounds kind of silly as we're saying it, but you'd be surprised at how many people with great ideas haven't thought through how they're going to monetize it.
Oh, I have, really? This is a concept that is completely foreign to me. Like, oh wow, that must be a weird thing not to be able to totally think about before you do a startup or prior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, that's been one observation. But I don't think, you know, we were talking, I think we were talking earlier about whether, you know, there's a difference in, let's say, success rates between different, you know, whether it's US or Europe. I don't think there's difference in success rates. It's kind of a mathematical process. Most things fail. Most things fail. Obviously, if everything was a success, then that would be the norm. But I think, you know, there obviously, if you have good people and you have proper capital and you have thought through your business model and you have something unique, these increase your chance to succeed.